Welcome to Ultimate Orlando Clicks. I'm your host, Kevin, and this week we begin in Disney's Hollywood Studios, specifically in Tower of Terror. Now, we're in the library here, and you can see this is the bookcase, and these are the artifacts at the top. And what I'm taking a picture of is the lighting, because what they've done is they've made this lighting a lot more bright, and so the light doesn't really dim as much as it used to when the television would turn on. And so I think that might be because they replaced these lights with LEDs because the incandescents are being phased out. And this takes place in the boiler room as well. Now, this photo is a little misleading. It's not quite this bright in the boiler room, but I couldn't get the camera to capture exactly what's going on. It is, however, much brighter than usual in the boiler room. And so I think it does change the atmosphere and ambiance of that just a little bit. Tower of Terror was busy on this past weekend when we were there. One of the shafts had broken, and so in the modern Fast Pass era, when the ride is only at half capacity, even this ride will have long standby lines. Now, the Glow with the Show ear display is not new. This is on Sunset Boulevard. What is new is this mirror in the middle here, where it puts a digital version of the Glow with the Show ears on top of anyone passing by or standing in front of the mirror, so you can see what you would look like wearing those ears. In the store next to that, that's the Villains store, we ran into these comic books. Seekers of the Weird is based on Museum of the Weird, which is one of the concepts for Haunted Mansion back at Disneyland, and that's why there's all this Haunted Mansion merchandise nearby as well. In that same store, we saw this lithograph of these Snow White poison apple lines, I guess, a page from the book of spells from the Evil Queen. And if I'm not mistaken, this is exactly the text that you would see in a golden book or brass book at Disneyland outside of Snow White's Scary Adventures, where there's an apple you're supposed to touch, which then causes the queen to cackle. It might actually be from the movie as well. I didn't double check that. Then at the Brown Derby Lounge, this is that area outside of the Brown Derby itself, I was struck by the fact, not that it was closed for the day, but that there was no trace of the bar and food service. And so that's when I realized that on days where it was threatening rain, like it was on this day, they decided not to open it. They can roll everything inside or just never roll it out in the first place, and then the lounge looks like there was no permanent footprint for the Brown Derby Lounge. Over at Backlot Express, I've previously taken a photo of the queue poles where they used to have two sides, one side set up for these cashiers and the other side set up for those cashiers, kind of the bank teller system. You wait in one line, and now they've combined it to be just one really long line that does move very fast because all of the cashiers are fed by it. So I thought that was a very equitable system. Beauty and the Beast sign is new, showing the direction to head for FastPass Plus and Standby. Haven't been on Rock and Roller Coaster for quite some time, so it could be that this Mickey Mouse figure is months or even years old, but I've just noticed it for the first time. Here's another new sign just around the corner from the Beauty and the Beast store, or the Beauty and the Beast stage show, announcing the Fast Pass Plus and the standby entrance for Fantasmic. I thought Fantasmic had an exclamation point, but maybe that's only at Disneyland. Now, this past weekend was the Expedition Everest Challenge, and it's a 5K run that combines with photo opportunities and sort of a trivia scavenger hunt sort of thing, and then obstacle course. And so this is the registration day over at the Wide World of Sports, and they've got places for you to sign the board or take photos as you saw in the backdrop, go to the expo, have a look at the baseball stadium where the grass has been ripped out, I guess. That was new for me. On the day of the event itself, it took place at nighttime. And as you can see by the streaks in the camera, it was in fact raining. So that was a bit of bad luck for them to have it occur during the rain. I apologize for the next several set of photos. That was taken with a waterproof handheld camera so that I could bring it into the rain and still take photos of the event. So they have things where you can check in your bag and so forth. You can see in the puddles that it is still raining somewhat hard. As always with these runDisney events, a whole bevy of porta potties that you can go visit. And then they have these corrals. They used to call them waves. These are just the corrals where you get put, and so that they release the runners one little bit at a time. So while the runners are waiting in their corral, the previous corral gets to go ahead and run on the race. It stretches out the course so that everyone's not all bunched up. However, it did mean that people were sitting in the corral wet and cold. It was actually unusual to be cold at this point in early May in Florida, but there you have it. This was an event that actually was cold. Now, instead of using fire, they used these steam or smoke vents to announce that the corral can then run through. That's the start line there. A little announcer off to the side from there. And they have several of these photo displays set up so you can take pictures with you posing as a runner and so forth at the event. Now, you might have seen the last couple of shots that wasn't rain, but was in fact fake snow. So they had over in this section of the parking lot a couple of fake snow dispensers kind of high up on risers there. and it was blowing fake snow, which of course is the soap. And so this is a collection of the soap on the ground where no one has been for quite some time. It gets slippery, and almost you can make footprints in it, in fact, as you walk around in that fake snow. Where I was walking to was the other side of the parking lot. So I was in Corral J. I was pretty far back, and so I wanted to see what else was happening in the parking lot. And you noticed 17 minutes after Corral A left was the runners coming back from Corral A. So a 5K doesn't take that long for the elite runners. 17 minutes, I think, it took them to first cross the finish line. And so just around the corner from here, the first runners made it around to the finish line. Now, when it came our turn, this is what it looks like under the arch itself. Now, the race takes you through the parking lot first, and you can see that we're still in the parking lot, and then to your first obstacle. So the obstacle courses, there's really only 3 of them. This one was bales of hay, and you're meant to just jump over them. It's meant to be fun. I mean, you can go around it if you feel like it. There's photographers set up here. It's meant to be fun and, in fact, done in teams. I encourage you to sign up in teams, maybe even dress alike and so forth, and give your team a name. Now, it's a 5K, as we've said, but what happens after that is a scavenger hunt. And so they come back into the park after they finish their 5K, 17 minutes later, and only it took 45 minutes for Corral J to even get off the starting line. So there was lots of intermixing of runners and scavenger hunters. And so they had all these cones set up and these signs pointing which direction the runners go and so forth. They did have these characters out for the first part of the night. They weren't there by the end of the night that you can go take pictures with. Now, the 5K takes you backstage briefly. So this is the Nemo Theater, and to the right are the bathrooms next to the Nemo Theater. We're going backstage here, and from there we will see a vehicle repair building. We're going to see another building on the other side in a few moments over there. First, some props, I guess, partly from Camp Minnie Mickey, and then we're going to turn left from here. Now, at this moment, you're seeing an image of the out and back nature of this part of the run. So you go way out here, almost to Cali River Rapids, and then we U-turn and come right back to where we just came from. So all these cones set up and lit by floodlights and so forth. And this is where mile 2 is. 5K is really only just over 3 miles, so it doesn't take long to run the whole thing. Here's that other building we were talking about. We saw the backside of it a moment earlier. It's another repair building. I'm not sure why there's water here because it's a self-contained lake. It doesn't really go anywhere, but obviously they can float things there to repair them. Second obstacle, series of tires that you can run through and have your photo taken. And then here's that turnaround point, again with the floodlights. And just to the left of that turnaround point is where Cali River Rapids is. Now, take note of the fact that it's all this red light that we can see and the mist. I apologize for the bad camera. What's going on here is that the ride, it takes on kind of a different character at nighttime. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And just after that turnaround, so we're heading back the other direction, they had this display set up of fire, basically, boiling off from these gas tubes, just to warm you up as if we needed the warmth at this point in the run. On our way back, we passed by, again, Expedition Everest, which we had seen on the way over here, and you can see that it does have the bamboo on this side of the mountain as well. In fact, you can't see it in this picture, but if you've ever been at the top of Blizzard Beach's mountain, you can see this side of Expedition Everest is painted like a monastery. It's got windows and so forth, and it's just a building rather than looking like a mountain from that side. From here, we continue with the out and back. So the out people are on the right, and the back people are on the left here. We go around this lake, and we're going to go around that side of the lake and turn around there and make our way back out to the parking lot from there. But first, at that last turn, we come to the third obstacle. Now, this one has you crawling, obviously, and fortunately, they had some artificial grass here. The reason I say fortunately is, remember, it was raining earlier, so if it had been no artificial grass, it would have been extra muddy. I think they learned their lesson because there was a time when the course was set up on regular grass. And obviously it gets really muddy and slippery and dangerous and so forth, and they couldn't do the challenges that way. That was the only other time I've ever done Expedition Everest Challenge. So I've done it twice now, and both times I've done it, it has rained. But this time, the grass at least kept it from being muddy. The artificial grass kept it from being muddy. On the downside, however, it hurts your knees to crawl on that sort of thing. So then after the 5K comes your series of challenges. So this is actually the second card. The first card you get as you looking at something you got from the race, they mean your bib, and then you need to find the right color, the color on the far right side is what they mean. So that's why it's green. I couldn't figure this out. I had to ask someone for help. The cast members helped you if you asked, but it's not all that obvious from the clue itself. So now what they want you to do after you tell them green is they give you this card and they say you're looking for words that are, prime, odd, and whole. Well, what they mean is numbers. And then in order to solve clue, what's hidden must add up. Now again, they don't tell you exactly what that means. What they want you to do, it turns out, is look for the words in the paragraph you solved earlier that contain a letter, or a number in it. So O-N-E spells out 1, so that's the number 1. So you're supposed to spell out number 1 and then the number 3, and it gives you a total of number 4. This was very confusing to many teams, and they had to ask for a lot of help. And it's a dark picture, but you can see people were kind of confused, and the clue stations were a little close to each other. So it was an interesting event. The next clue asks you to fill in letters. This one was more easily solved, I think, because you can just figure out what letters you've used already and which ones are remaining to use. And then you're asked to punch out things that are not there to warm you up. And then finally, you get an overlay to put on top of that, telling you to hold up the number solution from clue number 2 as you go past the finish line. So they want you to hold up the number 4 with your fingers on the finish line so that you can take a picture of that. And this is the Cast Cafe. You can't see it very well, but it says Castosaurus Cafe. So the backside of Restaurantosaurus, it looks like. And this is one of those moments where we had to go backstage briefly to transition from the part where we were doing the clues, the challenges. Then we had to walk again on that chain link fence with that lake to make it around to the second finish line. And at the second finish line, that's where they take your picture. They give you your medals, and you see some people wearing the medals here. It actually folds down and has a bit of a compass on the inside because it's like you're an explorer. And they give you the bananas and the drinks and so forth that you get after finishing your 5K. Now they also have an after party that's included with your price of paying for the challenge. And the after party includes several of the attractions are open, not all of them. And then this little kiosk tells you as well to come into Dino Land because they have a dance party going on here. Nothing too unusual with the dance party, except maybe to point out they have a person on stilts, not usually there when they do a dance party. And Mickey and Minnie dressed in explorer clothes, just kind of out and about for people to take pictures of, as well as some official race merchandise having to do with the Expedition Everest challenge, now lined up here and right in the middle of Dino-Rama. Some special cocktails as well. I don't normally see this cart out in Dino Land or in Animal Kingdom. Now we also went over to Cali River Rapids because we haven't been on it at nighttime before. And so you can see even with the poor camera that there's a different atmosphere to this place at nighttime. So outside might be dark but kind of blue lit with some spotlights. And then inside bright white and this is a queue part that's not really used. On the ride itself, I don't think I've even noticed the Christmas lights in the area overhead, but they really kind of take over when it's nighttime. I don't have pictures of it, but the ride itself really changes character at nighttime. That aforementioned mist and red glow scene where they're doing the buzzsaws and the destruction really looks very mysterious at night. Very completely different experience. And then right after the big drop, there's a series of waterfalls over on the side. I don't think I've ever paid any attention to it in the daylight, but it was lit by these colored spotlights at nighttime. It looked phenomenal. It looked really good. And so I'm hopeful that Animal Kingdom can become a park that stays open with some of these attractions late at night. And the newly announced Rivers of Light, that's going to be a water show in the lagoon area in front of Expedition Everest, really might do the trick to keep people late at night, staying for dinner in the parks, and maybe even keeping some of the rides open afterwards. All right, that brings us to our game. Where in Walt Disney World was this? Last week's challenge looked like this, and several guesses, but only one of them, at least only one that I saw, was correct. This is, in fact, from The Living Seas. So this is that movie that you would see at the very beginning. It's about to say something about the deluge coming, and after the earth gets formed, then it's going to rain the whole time and make the seas. All right, here we go with our next clue. Where in Walt Disney World was this? Leave your answers in the comments, and we will see next week if you were right. That does it for us this time. We thank you guys as always for dropping by. Great to see you. Great to leave comments. Look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks.